So this meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcasts, which may also be used for training purposes. Everybody okay with that? So let's go on to the agenda, and we'll just take apologies, and then I want to say something about Greg Moore. So, Lauren, what apologies do we have, please?
We have apologies this evening from Councillor Harries, with Councillor Hyman attending as substitute, and we've also received apologies from Councillor Highland. The Vice Chair, Councillor Chambers de Booth, is running a little bit late, but she will be here as soon as she can.
Okay, thanks for that. So before we move on to the agenda, I just want to say a couple of words on the sad passing of Greg Moore. Greg Moore, as some of you, most of you will know, joined the council back in 2014. I think he was an accountancy manager there. Then he rose to financial services manager before being appointed to the position of head of finance and section 15 officer in 2023. And he retired in November 24 due to ill health. He was a great friend of Scrutiny, and he had the ability to make the most complicated financial arrangements and loans and all that kind of detail we look at here at Scrutiny. He had the most amazing ability to translate that into layman's language, which we could understand and question him and his colleagues on finance. Great guy, great loss. Some of us went to his memorial service on Saturday. It's looking at Ruth over there, Councillor Steph Chambers, and it was really nice to see former leader of the City Council, Richard Cook, there too. We will take a minute's silence, but I'll just give anybody who wants to say anything the opportunity to say a word or two if they do. Anybody like to speak? Councillor Chambers, Steph Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that remembering Greg on Saturday was a privilege, and a privilege to meet his family and see the strength, the amazing strength that they're all showing, even though they're going through such a terrible time. Greg was a young man, and it was just very sad. But the one thing I came away with was the thought that, and I said to his wife as well, just to maybe live a bit more like Greg. He was kind, he was gentle, and he was living his life and doing the best for his family. So it was lovely to see. And he was very work conscientious as well.
It's really nice tribute. Anybody else? In that case, can I just request that we stand just for a minute to remember Greg, pay tribute to him? Thank you. Okay, I make that about a minute. So great loss and great guy. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the rest of the agenda. Declaration of party whipping. Anybody want to declare any party whipping that's taken place? As Vice Chair just coming in. The minutes of the last meeting. Any matters arising or comments that people want to make on the minutes of the last meeting? Comments or questions? So, Lauren, I've just got a couple. Trying to read my notes. At 38.26, we talk about the review of the financial situation going to Cabinet in December, and we did request that comes to us in December for our ONS meeting in December. That's the review of the financial position that the council finds itself in. And at 38.30, I suggested, and it was accepted, that a report covering the forum delays and associated financial information come to ONS once the project was completed. That was noted, but it was also agreed across the board. So if we could just have that clarification in the minutes, if that's okay, please. And I think that was all that I wanted to raise on the minutes. Okay, so Tanya pointed out, and she's right, that I forgot to cover item 32, declarations of interest. Take it there aren't any to declare, apart from Anne Radley, who's frantically waving her hands.
Thank you, Chair. The papers make reference to the Gloucestershire Gateway Trust in the delivery of various things. I'd just like to remind that I work for the Gloucestershire Gateway Trust, so I've not been involved in decision making.
Okay, thank you. So I've just covered minutes. Can I formally move that we adopt the minutes with a couple of points that I made? Is that okay? All those in favour, please show. Nobody against. Public question time. No public questions. Petitions and deputations. No petitions or deputations. And the action points, I think that's all covered. So that takes us on, I think.
Can I just ask, we've got two agendas, an agenda version.
So I didn't catch that one.
We two agendas.
Oh, can Lauren, can you clarify that, Lauren?
Yes, I can, Chair. So apologies, members. There was one highlighted section that ought to have been taken out before publication. It was just an officer note. So I noticed when I was doing my printing today, so it was just to remove that one point on point 25, I think it was. But everything else in the agenda pack is exactly the same.
Okay, you're okay with that? Okay, fine, thanks. So that takes us on to the Armed Forces Covenant report, I think. Councillor Trimnell. While you're taking your seat, thanks for the report, pretty comprehensive report. If you'd like to say a couple of words, I think we're happy to take it as read, but if a couple of points you'd like to make, thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Just a few really, just to say how proud I am to present this update to the committee. A vital commitment that ensures those who serve or have served in our armed forces and their families are treated with fairness and respect. This report highlights the meaningful progress we've made. We currently support 83 armed forces households on our housing register, and recent policy changes have made it easier for veterans to access housing locally. Our commemorative events, including Armed Forces Day and VE Day, have brought our community together in recognition and remembrance. Importantly, Gloucester is home to over 5,123 veterans. This is a significant community whose contributions we must continue to honour and support. We've also strengthened partnerships through the Armed Forces Hub and Housing Subgroup, improving access to services and shaping future support. Internally, we continue to support our own staff who are reservists or veterans, ensuring our values are reflected in our workplace. Looking ahead, we're excited to explore the Armed Forces Hub and creating a wall of remembrance, lasting symbols of our commitment. This covenant is more than policy, it's a promise that Gloucester stands with our armed forces community, not just in words, but also in action. Thank you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Open it up to questions or comments. Any comments? Yep.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to ask, you mentioned the Armed Forces Hub in your speech there. Twice now I have asked at full council for a meeting to discuss finding them a permanent home in the city centre. Can I ask that that be noted again and that we do something about it? It has been since July I've been requesting this.
Thank you, Karen. I will take that back. I believe there is a meeting on the 18th of November that is part of a county council meeting that's going to be looking at that. I'm not sure, are you invited to that particular meeting? Okay, so I will look into that and see if you can be invited to that. Okay, thank you.
Steph Chambers, Councillor Steph Chambers.
Yeah, thank you. And I firstly want to praise the work that is being done. I think it's good, and everything little piece we can do is really important. one thing that I've been thinking about recently is the statistics show that our armed forces are shrinking at a time when we might need them the most. And obviously that's not within this authority's gift to change, but I think there's more we could be doing. When you dig into the reasons for some of the people not joining or leaving the army, it's, the public perception and often reality is that we're not doing enough for our veterans. And I think that's within every area of society and society's own point of view. You look at the mental health challenges that some of the armed forces people are facing. And I think the world's got better in recognising mental health in one way, but I think they're not better in recognising serious mental health. And a lot of the root causes behind that and the root causes behind some antisocial behaviour or alcohol abuse. I've looked at some academic reports and the prevalence of that in veterans is quite high. And actually we might look at somebody wandering around our city centre causing antisocial behaviour and not understand their root causes of that and how we can better support them as a society. So there are a few things, and that's not to say that every veteran is going out to cause any antisocial behaviour, but there are some, and the issues that they've suffered of and PTSD are causing that. I think we need to be more proactive as a society and as an authority to make life easier. We need to recognise, and we've got the help for heroes, and we all say, yes, it's heroes, but we need to do practical support, not just say to them they're heroes, but we need to do more practical things. So we need to do more about their housing, and that is something within this authority's control. What we do at present is we meet the legislative necessities is the word I was looking for, and gold band for priority need veterans isn't good enough. I think we should be doing more, and what we should be doing is giving gold band to veterans and armed forces, veterans coming from the armed forces, until we find them somewhere. If we haven't found them somewhere within 6 months, that's on us. It's usually not their fault, unless they've actually turned down every property we've put their way. That's not on them, that's on us for not help. And I know we've got restrictions, but we should be prioritising veterans and giving them that extra. So I really, really would like to see the gold band given to veterans until we find them somewhere. And because we know 6 months for a family, they're not going to get somewhere. So I've got 2 other points, but do you want to respond to that one?
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm going to bring Ruth in a minute, but on your first point about the mental health support of veterans, it made me think of something that I went to, can't remember when now, but it was the GL Communities, just find it, GL Communities Veterans Support Hub. And I don't know if you've heard of the work that they do, the GL Communities, but they literally provide a holistic wraparound service for veterans. And this includes mental health support, employment assistance, housing solutions and community engagement, ensuring comprehensive care and literally a brighter future for veterans. And I remember talking to one particular veteran that had served in Afghanistan, had come back suffering from post-traumatic stress, and he was getting so much support from the GL Communities. And so it's just made me think that it's something I need to go back and revisit, and something that I need to see exactly how many other stories are coming out of that. And perhaps, Chair, I can share that information with the committee, because this was about 9 months ago now. So I'm sure there's other stories that come out of that. So that's just the one point for that. The second point is, there were 12 households that were rehoused in the past year due to various needs. So 12, and I believe this is veteran family households. And also veterans benefit from enhanced housing priority bans anyway, and recent regulations removing the 5-year local connection limit, which is really helpful too. But let me bring in Ruth.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor, for your question. So I think, on the mental health point, I think one of the things that is key is the work that the city centre engagement team are doing with some of the individuals that might be experiencing quite publicly mental health challenges in the city centre. And, you know, their role is to obviously understand people's unique journeys and what might be needed to support those individuals. I think the challenge we have in terms of the banding, you know, Gloucestershire have a shared allocations policy, so all of the districts offer a consistent approach to how we allocate. If Gloucester was to step outside of that and offer more, because there is no local connection, that would mean that more veterans came to Gloucester and expected housing in Gloucester, which might then disadvantage other families or other priority groups. So I think, you know, there is more we could do, but I think we would need to understand the wider implications of what that might mean. So yeah, I think that's sometimes the challenge, is making sure that there's consistency, particularly given we do afford a local connection to the whole of the county, which actually gives them more choice. So I think it's kind of swings and roundabouts.
Thank you, Ruth. Yeah, I suppose my thought was, and I've been through the Home Seeker policy process, is that we put that forward to that group next time we're reviewing the policy, and just see if everybody else could get on board with that. It would just be good if we could be the leader and maybe see if we can convince everybody. The other points I had is the link to the website takes you to the County Council website, but there's nothing on our website. So I wondered if there was more information and signposting we could do ourselves, particularly in relation to housing. I know when I was younger, we were helped by SAFA, I think it was, in relation to housing associations. And that was really good. So if we can link all the extra help, and like the help to GL communities that you've just mentioned, that would be good if we had one dedicated page. And then the other kind of point that I had in relation to this was, as we go through every policy, we have a set of criteria. We look at social value, etc., etc. Do we have a criteria we could look at to think at every policy that we bring through? We think, how could we support veterans within this policy? We know we're under tight financial constraints, but there might just be little tweaks. If we think about it in relation to every new policy or every amended policy we do, could we look at every policy with a criteria of how we can better support veterans? And not just veterans, but armed forces personnel that live within our city as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so I suppose it's something that could be considered under the Equality Impact Assessment, which is something that we use for all of our decision making. So there is a category, kind of any other special groups, and, you know, people like care leavers, for example, would also be considered under that. So I think that is where we would consider the needs of veterans under specific policies. But it might be that we do some work to look at, you know, which particular special groups we would want to consider under every policy, or every policy consideration, even if it means saying actually there isn't a specific impact on that one. So that is something that we could probably look at.
Just a quick thought on that. Would it be worth speaking to one of the specific charities that know a lot more about veterans' needs than I do or anybody here does, just to see what would be the best sort of criteria to assess things on?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. I think you've raised a really good couple of recommendations there. In terms of the signposting on our website, I think that could be easily done. We'll speak to the officer. Is Ian? Yeah. Good, thank you.
Anne Radley?
Thank you, Chair. You've answered one of the questions I was going to ask, but I thought I may as well ask it for completeness anyway. Reading through some of the information, it talks about best practice for veterans and for armed service families is that support is provided within a community setting, that civilian community and the military community are encouraged as much as possible to have mutually supportive relationships. And I was wondering if, you know, the work with GL communities was making any appreciable differences in the way that those communities are be able to mutually support each other.
Thank you, Anne. I think there's definitely that within GL communities. So it's not about segregating them, if you think in a certain block, and then just keeping them away from everybody else. That's not at all how it works. But it's certainly that the experiences that our veterans are faced with when they come back are very special in how they are going to go about daily life. And it's the support of fellow comrades that have come back, served in certain wars, certain areas, and that support is fundamental in this. But I think in terms of joining them together with the wider community, then absolutely, you know, and I think that's something that GL Communities does very well, actually. So thank you for your question, Anne.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, do you want to come back? No, happy to take you, if you want to follow up. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask whether you could give us any information on what sort of schedule there is for maintenance and cleaning and things of the cenotaph at all. I noticed last year when I went to the Remembrance Parade that there were quite a few paving slabs missing that had been filled in with concrete. A lot of them are sort of chipped and broken now as well. It really does need something, a bit of TLC to get it up to standard. And coupled with that, next year sees the 80th anniversary, I believe, of the Battle of Imgin. So I was wondering whether we couldn't make a sterling effort to get everything up together. Does the council have any plans to celebrate that anniversary at all?
Thanks, Karen. I know it's not perfect at all at the moment down there. I've had a few residents myself come to me pretty much saying the same as you. I think it is going to need a concerted sort of effort into seeing where we can get that money, whether it's through what department in the city council. I think in terms of a celebration, I think that would come under commemoration. It would come under my cabinet member fellow as well, Caroline. So I will speak with her, and I'm sure we'll do something. Okay, thank you.
Owen.
Thank you, Chair. I was pleased to see there's a lot of activities that are mentioned here, but VJ Day wasn't, and I suspect that that's a timing issue because the report has to be published at some time. My recollection on VJ Day is that I sought out Commonwealth war graves at the time, and looking on a map, I found it hard to find them. And I think it would be great if we could publicise where the Commonwealth war graves and other war graves are in the city, so that people can go and remember people. As my fellow councillors just mentioned, the tidiness of some of our memorials is not great. There are some plant pots with weeds in them, etc. And particularly as we approach Remembrance Day in less than a week's time, I'd really like to see some places tidied up and made special for people. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. We'll look into that.
Okay, so I'm just going to take the Vice Chair, if that's okay, before Councillor Chambers.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me another go. Just something that I thought of in relation to tidying up the centograph. I know that I believe, if it's still in operation, that Gloucester City Council employees have an amount of volunteer time that they can do. Could we set up we send out notices locally for employees and councillors. Could we arrange a volunteer day if somebody could provide the materials we needed? Because I'd be happy to join as a councillor, and I'm sure other people would be. So we could get that done. So that's the thought on volunteering. And then the other question was, it said we offer 10% discount on some activities. It mentioned 2 activities. But considering, say, for instance, a family that has a parent away abroad with the armed forces, the time they get together is very, very precious, isn't it? Could we offer the discount across all cultural activities that this city council operates?
Thanks, Stephanie. I think we'd have to do a cost analysis on that, to be really frank with you.
Thank you. We were talking about the cenotaph down by the park, and there are various other memorials around the city aimed at our armed forces and people who served and didn't come home. Some of those are in appalling condition. I don't know if we have a register of those that we can look at. So, for example, in Moorland, we actually have a memorial on the back of St Stephen's Church down on Bristol Road. Most people don't know about that. You can't see it unless you peer through the fence. It's unloved, and still in our area, we have a lot of people who were born and bred in the area, and the people on that memorial are actually people who were family members. Yet it's completely disrespected, surrounded by fly tipping and unloved. The memorial is, it actually commemorates all the people lost in the Great War who worked at Moorland's factory originally. So it's still there, just on the back of St Stephen's Church. But when you think about our little area of Moorland and Linden and the roads around there, that would have been a huge amount of the people that were lost in the Great War. Yet it's not remembered or celebrated, and it's pretty much just being left to decay. I'm pretty certain that's probably not the only example in Gloucester. So I think maybe we ought to start actually collating where these things are, a bit like the war graves, and then look at what we can do to actually make them accessible to the public again and to be able to celebrate those people.
Thank you, Tree. I'm not aware of a register, but I wondered whether the British Legion might actually have that information. So I think it would be a simple case, but I think, Ruth, you want to say something?
So the ones that are in our ownership, we obviously know about. We don't always have the funds to be able to kind of keep them beautiful. So the cenotaph will be cleaned and make sure it's tidy in advance of any memorial that happens there, or any kind of, big memorial day. The St Stephen's Church is owned by somebody else now, isn't it? So, I mean, we can make contact with them and ask them if there's anything they can do to make that memorial accessible for the community. We can ask the question, can't we? There's no reason why not. So I'm happy to take that away and ask
definitely.
the question of the owner of that site.
Can I just come back on that? That would be really fantastic if you could do that. Plans for St Stephen's seems to be pretty shaky a lot of the time at the moment, to say the least. Would it be possible for the council to bear in mind, if it was planned that the building was going to be taken apart or demolished, that the council would take ownership of that memorial and remove it?
Go on.
I suspect the conservation officers would take those discussions very seriously and ensure that any historic, memorials in that location, or the architecture of the building, are preserved as best as possible. So, but I will double check with them to make sure they're involved in those discussions.
This is completely off the top of my head, but there's a website called Know Your Place, which may have information about war graves and memorials. And if it doesn't have, maybe it would be an appropriate place as well to augment any information from the Royal British Legion. It would be worth looking at. It's an overlay, you can choose which era you look at, so it might have that facility.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. I think making contact with the Royal British Legion would actually be a really good idea to get the idea of what Tree was saying about trying to establish a more whole. Can I also give my thanks to Councillor Andy Lewis, because he has taken on the Armed Forces Liaison Officer role, which he took on about 18 months ago, and he's fantastic because he goes to those meetings that I sometimes can't get to because my portfolio is so huge with all the different areas that's now under me, that I am conscious that sometimes I don't go to many of those meetings, but I am informed about them, and I do try and keep up to date as much as I can with this area because it is, of course, so important. But my thanks definitely goes to Andy Lewis for being our Armed Forces Liaison Officer.
Okay, so Karen, we're back to you, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask a very specific question, actually, and the reason why is because we were contacted by a veteran only this morning in my other job, asking that the brass be cleaned on the cenotaph, and I was unsure as to what he was referring. The actual, I say engraving, but they're like a relief with the names on. Do you know what that's actually made of? Is it anodized metal or?
I wouldn't be able to tell you, but we do have specialists that would absolutely know what that's made of and how we might need to clean it in a specialist way. So I'll go and ask the question about the cenotaph. I mean, Ubico can clean the area, obviously do the weeding, make sure it's clean, but, you know, there are some specialist elements that we would need to make sure we tread carefully. So thank you.
Yeah, if you could get back to me on that one, it'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes. So lots of actions there for you, Ruth and Rebecca. So I just want to make sure that we've got all those noted down so that when we meet in December, we can check the progress. I just wanted to pick up on 2 or 3 things. One was the access to the County Council's website where it deals with veterans and trying to get more information on the City Council's website. One of the things that really surprised me when I had that Armed Forces Row at the County Council until the Lib Dems took it off me when they swept into power in May was, oh, that's just a fact. It's just a fact. It's being dispassionate. It's a fact. But one of the things that did surprise me, and maybe it will surprise all of you, were the number of clubs and organisations dotted around, not just in Gloucester, which met to support veterans, but across Gloucestershire. There was one literally just around the corner from me at the St. Beach Rugby Club. And we managed to pull all that together so that when you go into the website, the County Council website, and say, what is there for veterans in this area, that area, the number of breakfast clubs, supper clubs, social events just blew me away. And that's one of the ways in which we as councillors can assist the veterans community by making sure not only that we have these organisations and venues where they can go and get help and advice, but equally as importantly, tell people and share the information with people across the city and across the county. That's really so important. So if we can add that. So Ruth or Rebecca, just my couple of questions. One of you referred to, looking at my notes, the 27,000 veterans in Gloucestershire. That's the highest in any of the 6 districts. And of that 27,000, 5,123, taking figure from the report, actually live here in Gloucester. I think I know the answer, but I'll still ask the question. Is there any way that we can identify the addresses of those 5,000 so we can target them with direct mail information that might be helpful to them? I'm pretty sure the last time I asked, I was told, no, we know the overall figure because it comes from the Department of Work and Pensions, but we can't tell you what the addresses are because if we could get it, it would be so useful to occasionally, even if it was only once a year, do a mail shot to all the veterans who we know about here in the city.
No, I don't think we have that information, and I think it'd probably be quite difficult to get, and probably will keep changing. So I think any kind of exercise in the short term might be kind of short-lived in terms of what information it gives us. And I think there are probably data handling challenges around why we might want that information. We'd have to be quite specific about what we were going to do with it. So yeah, it might be quite challenging to get that and to use it meaningfully.
So, Karen, just looking at you, Karen, is there any way that the MP's office could assist us and do some digging around with the DWP and Treasury and a couple of other departments who I can't think of off the top of my head to see how we could just get that information? We don't want it, obviously, for any sinister purposes. It's just to do direct mail shots to the veterans who we have here in Gloucester to alert them to benefits and venues that they might not be aware of.
I can certainly ask a question, Chair, but I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I would think that there would be a reason why that information is not readily available. quite honestly. So I would think it unlikely, but I will certainly ask.
Certainly didn't expect you to have the information at your fingertips, because it's a question off the top of my head. I think those were all the points that I wanted to make. So we'll just quickly go around the table to wrap up. Just looking along this side. Anybody want to come back again? No, this side's been spectacularly quiet, apart from Anne, who's asked a few questions. Anybody else? Nope. So Rebecca and Ruth, thanks for coming. Thanks for your patience answering all of our questions. We have got all the notes about what you're going to do, and look forward to in December having some feedback. But thank you both. And it was really nice of you, Rebecca, to refer to the work that Andy Lewis does behind the scenes. That partnership that he attends in Shire Hall, that's such a key organisation in Gloucestershire, dealing with the work of our charities who work with veterans and protecting veterans as well. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, thank you. Chair.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. Hilton's all ready to take his seat for the corporate plan. So just a few bullet points, please, Councillor. We've all read the reports, and we've seen the press release that went out today, headed up Council putting the heart back into Gloucester with ambitious new corporate plan. Whether or not we think it's an ambitious corporate plan, we'll soon find out, I'm sure.
Thank you, Chair. I'm glad you read the Council's press release. That's very diligent of yourself. Obviously, this is a new corporate plan from 2025 to 2028. It's based on the Lib Dem manifesto of putting the heart back into Gloucester, but also work that was in progress by the Council at the time. We originally kicked off with, when we went out to consultation, with 57 key actions. That rose to 60 after the stakeholder engagement, and then through opposition amendments it rose to 71. We compare the number of actions we've got to the last one of the former administration, it was 45, and before that it was just 38. So we are working hard to deliver more in this council, and it's good news that 80% of the actions are completed or expected to be completed on time, and the other 20% are in progress, and there's a risk of delay. Now, the risk of delay related to the financial constraints of this council that inherited, the human capacity of the organisation to do things. So it's always no good just asking for more to be done if the capacity, human capacity, isn't there. And of course, we've got the issue with staff turnover, which can delay work on certain projects. Staff turnover that could be affected by local government reorganisation. Local government reorganisation is also taking up quite a lot of officer time as well. The corporate strategy plan will be returning every 6 months with an update on where we are. So it's pretty good news. We're making progress. Considering the things that have been dumped on us. LGR in particular has taken up one hell of a lot of time to deal with. And it's still going to take up a lot of time, whatever happens, because we know the government's going to be making a decision on how it wants to reorganise local government in Gloucestershire. We don't know when that will actually happen. They've given a timetable, but that is placing a heavy burden on senior officers in particular of this council, and recruitment as well.
Okay, all noted, thank you. Councillor Steph Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. Before we start individually scrutinising areas of this corporate plan, I don't want to be too negative, but I'm so disappointed. I brought a motion a while ago so we could access the performance data online, which was not passed. I wasn't here. I was not here at that council. However, the peer review stated that our performance indicators should be smart performance indicators. Now, that means they should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound relevance. I've also read the LGA guidance on performance indicators of a corporate plan. Now, this document that we've got here today, to me, it just isn't that. We were assured we don't need access to the performance data because we're going to receive it in the twice yearly overview and scrutiny. There's been no involvement with scrutiny, which I'd requested in creating these performance indicators, so we can all be working together, which was another thing on the peer review, to be more involvement of scrutiny. So to be presented, and we can go through the detail later, but to be presented with these issues, which some of them absolutely contradict things I've been told recently in regards to issues, and there's no point. To me, it's a waste of time of everybody sat round here when we're presented with a report that contradicts things we've been told, hasn't been worked as a team to create these performance indicators, and it just looks like it was sort of thrown together. There's items in there that say, during the lifespan of the forum, this has been done. Well, that's 1 year of this and 4 years before that. So that's not really relevant. It should be specific to this corporate plan, and it's not. That's just one thing I've identified. So I just want to know your response, and is there a possibility of going back to the drawing board, working with a group of overview and scrutiny or the whole committee, and creating, with some advice and some training and reading the LGA guidance, on how better these performance indicators can inform us? There's no real percentages, or just a lot of it just says will be completed by 2028.
Well, I think it's a good report, and I would disagree with you. I think the Conservative group seems to be obsessed by getting the minutiae out of reports. And frankly, that would take one hell of a lot of officer time to start digging around on this. This is about the high-level report, the corporate plan, which will come back every 6 months to tell you about the progress that's been made. As far as asking for your, we had a motion at council with regard to all the data that's in on the database that officers work to. We had a vote on that, and your proposal was rejected. So I think this is a good progress on the corporate plan, and maybe we should ask some questions about how we're progressing, rather than go through this argument time and time again. We're not going to have the same way of operating this council, particularly when we look at the resources this council's got. We are not going to spend all our time navel gazing. We want to get on with the job of delivering the end product, and that's what we're doing. And that's what this report says. 80% of them have either been delivered or they're on target to be delivered in the life of this plan.
Can you just state then that you are, if you haven't read the LGA guidance on performance indicators, that, and what it says a role is of a councillor, of a scrutiny member, etc., and that you've taken no opinion, you've absolutely ignored the peer review then, because they specifically mentioned all that.
I'm not ignoring anything. I'm just making the clear point that this is a report on the progress on the corporate plan, and I think it's a good enough document for members to discuss. And we're not going to go into the minutiae and digging around inside databases that you wanted to do. We've got to get on with the job. We do not have the resources of this council to go into that sort of detail. And that's what we're doing. We're getting on with the job. We've already got, as I said, 71 targets compared to the last Conservative administration that only had 45 targets. And quite a number of those targets, from looking at the reports, were not completed. We're doing well.
Okay, I'll come back on some of the points you were just making about the minutiae, because I'd be interested to understand what you mean, what the definition of minutiae is. I think Councillor Chambers was making some pretty good points, but lots of hands have gone up. So this side, Anne Radley.
Thank you, Chair. it's a very comprehensive report. There's an awful lot of detail over an awful lot of areas. But skimming through, I think one of the key areas I think we need to talk about is item 51, which is tackle the backlog of unaudited accounts, ensuring the council publishes draft unaudited accounts each year by the backstop date promised by government. We've got that one as on time, completion expected. Would you be able to just give a little bit more background and assurance? Because, that's fundamental to many of the other things that this plan is sort of based around.
We were handed over 4 years of incomplete accounts by the former administration.
So we're going into the
And
cyber attack. Now, we're going into a detailed discussion about the cyber attack.
No, we're not going to that. We were handed over 4 years of accounts which were incomplete, and we've now found this to the point that inaccurate they have been, and we're trying to resolve the financial situation of this council. We've already taken on some additional staffing to do that and brought in a new finance officer. We're making progress, but it is difficult progress. And we've got limited resources for this council to deal with it. So we're working as well as we can. And I agree with you. Sorting out the accounts is really important. I made that point quite clear in opposition when I said, if the statements of accounts are unfinished and unaudited, how do we know what the state of the finances of this council will be? And that's been the situation since we've taken office. And we've discovered quite a number of holes in the system already, and we're rectifying them. And we can only do that. We can't rush it. We've got to make sure that when we do publish figures, that they are accurate and not ones that are wrong.
Thank you. Chair, how do you want us to do this? Do you want us to take a few or just do one? So I'd imagine there's a lot of people to go
Anne,
around.
while you've got the floor, if you want to chuck in another 2 or 3, that's fine. Then we'll work our way around.
Thank you, Chair. I was also interested in the point where it talks about providing 39, talking about network support for community engagement, community organisations, sort of VCS infrastructure. Gloucester does not have a volunteering centre where other areas do. I was wondering if that is something that's potentially could be considered as part of the structural support. I think it was GAVCA failed and was allowed to go. We also have a lack of support for those charities and small VCS organisations, which GAVCA as the infrastructure organisation did support. So some of the questions that Councillor James is raising around support for the Forces Hub, that was the organisation that would have helped those groups find the right sort of funding so that they could pay their own rent, so that they could go forward and do what they do. As part of that area that could be considered, or is it out of scope?
So the VCS Alliance do a lot of that work across Gloucestershire. So, I don't think Gloucester City Council has the capacity to set up a VCS organisation to support other VCS organisations, but the VCS Alliance do tell us that that is the type of work that they do. I'm not sure what more we can do to support that process.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Karen. Sorry, Anne, I apologise. Anne, did you have more questions?
I do, but I'll come back when we get another
fair
round.
enough. Yeah, Karen.
Thank you, Chair. The first thing I noticed about this report was that there's an awful lot of green on it, which looks really, really helpful. But when you look at the dates, the vast majority of the dates are the end of December 2028. And I think it's a bit disingenuous to say that on-time completion is expected for something that's going to happen in 3 years' time. Would it not be more honest or provide more clarity if these things were only colour-coded once they had been completed?
they're colour coded because they're on target to be delivered in the life of this corporate strategy. So it's council strategy, they're on target to be delivered in that time. If at any stage when we update it in 6 months' time, something starts to slip, we then mark it as something that's slipping.
Okay, Terry Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, Jeremy. Okay, a number of things. First of all, you talked about the minutiae of detail. Well, with great respect, we are the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and we're here to look at detail. So I think that's a fair request, and I have to say that I'm quite surprised that not every cabinet member is here this evening, because with respect, Jeremy, you may not have that detail yourself. So can I first of all throw up as a recommendation that going forward, every cabinet member should attend this briefing so that they can give us the level of detail that we need. The state of the council's finances are very clear, and you've alluded to this, that savings have to be made. We know that significant savings have to be made. So how confident are you that you can still deliver this programme? And if not, what are those issues that you are considering deleting from the programme? And I have other questions as well, Chair.
I don't think there's anything we're considering deleting. I think a couple of comments that have been made within the report said that some of these programmes might slip because of the finances. But when we make decisions, if we have to make decisions to delete anything, we'll do it at that time. But I'm not going to second guess the future.
Okay, thank you. If I can now be specific on point 25, which talks about work with partners to support labour regeneration, including the regeneration of Matson and Podsmead. And as we know, at the moment, Podsmead, the council and its partner GCH has failed to deliver the regeneration of Podsmead. So to say that it's in progress and is potential risk actually isn't true, is it? It has failed. And actually, I do question whether we need another category in that case. So can you tell me what are the next steps, please, for the regeneration of Podsmead to get it back on track? And I notice on point 25 that it says that there may need to be a new paragraph in here. Well, respectfully, if there does need to be a new paragraph, then the corporate plan is a council plan, and it needs to come back to council for changes to be agreed rather than a cabinet decision. Thank you.
Well, as you know, and there's some members around this table, the planning committee made a decision to reject the Podsmead planning application by GCH. Any new proposals that need to come in from Podsmead will need to be instigated by GCH, as most of the properties on the Podsmead estate, on the Poets Corner estate, are owned by Gloucester City Homes. They've said they're not planning to do that at the moment. Similarly, I think we've got issues to deal with Matson. The others need to come forward with specific proposals on regeneration. I do know that the cabinet member for the environment is looking at a scheme to provide some improvements to the biodiversity and the natural environment in Podsmead, and he'll bring that one forward at a later point in time. So we're looking at that. But as far as the housing stock, again, Gloucester City Homes owns the stock. They no longer are influenced by this council. They have properties that needs refurbishment, or with the areas being regenerated. They need to come forward with that plan. I think the reason why the planning committee rejected the application was because GCH wanted to build on 60% of the green open space in Podsmead, and that was one of the fundamental reasons why it was rejected. So come back with a plan to deal with the housing in Podsmead. GCH can come up with back with a plan that doesn't involve building all over the green space, which many people in Podsmead want to keep.
Yeah, okay. I just want a commitment from you as the leader of the council that you are committed to regenerating Podsmead, which is what is in the corporate plan.
Yeah, of course we are. We'll deal with any regeneration proposal that comes forward. There are others in the city, and if they're really good regeneration proposals, we'll assist. But it's not our capital, it's not our funding that's going to be able to deliver that. It's going to be GCH is going to need to find the funding if they need to deal with their housing stock, not us. We no longer own GCH. We're no longer a housing authority like we were. But we're open-minded to any of these schemes that come forward, and they've got to be good schemes. But as far as Podsmead's concerned, don't come back with a plan to build all over the green space, because it'll get rejected again.
Okay, so on that one, how did you follow that through? It's all very well for you to say don't build on. I thought that your officers were talking to City Homes and they had a virtual agreement on what would go to the committee. So it's all very well for you to say do this, do that, and you'll get planning permission. It's not quite that simple, is it? And you know that. Unless you're the planning committee now and you call the shots to your officers and your elected members. Is that what happened?
Sorry, Andrew, that's pretty insulting. Let's be clear. You sat on the planning committee and you abstained on the application. There were members of the planning committee. They made a decision to reject the planning application. They did it without any influence from the executive or anybody else. We know that Gloucester City Homes has said they're not planning to put forward a new proposal at this moment. Officers of Gloucester City Council, the head of place, are in discussion with them. They're having discussions with them about the Clapham Court. It's at the moment, the proposal for Clapham Court is pre-application discussions. I've had a meeting with them about that because the first planning application was rejected. We'll see what comes forward and what the plans are, and it'll be up to the planning committee, without interference from anybody else, to make a decision on whether they agree to the new proposal.
Okay, before we move on, have you got any more questions? Okay, so I don't want to lose sight of the point you were making about the entire cabinet coming to the next review, which is going to be around about April or May time. So I think that was a sound suggestion. I think the leader and his cabinet need to come back here as a group and talk to us. We are Scrutiny. Of course we're Scrutiny. That's what we're doing. That's not minutiae. So if you want to formally move that, and we'll capture that in the minutes, I'm happy to second it and we'll take a vote. And I hope it will be supported. So if you want to formally move that.
Well, do you want me to answer that?
Pardon?
At the moment, I seem to be coping quite well, and so with Ruth to answer the points.
Yeah, we'll take,
made.
absolutely.
So
So
I'm not going to bring the whole cabinet here when it's a report in the name of the leader and subject to us being able to deal with all the questions that you're putting. So it's a matter for the leader to decide whether he needs the assistance of other cabinet members when presenting a report in his name.
So we're going to take it to the vote, and if you decide as leader that you don't want to take the views of Scrutiny, so be it, that will be noted. So if you want to comment on that proposal now, we'll take you, Jeremy, we'll take you, leader. So do you want to comment on that before we take a vote?
I think we should wait until we've got through this meeting to see whether there's a need for for all the cabinet members to be here, and we couldn't have got all the cabinet members to be here this evening. So it's not always possible, and we're doing this every 6 months. You'll get the opportunity to question all the cabinet members when we get to the budget cycle. I think once a year is probably good enough.
So we're not the budget committee, are we? We're not audit, we're overviewing scrutiny.
You are the one that scrutinises the budget.
Okay, so do you want to formally move that? Let's make some progress.
Okay. Respectfully, I do think it's up to this committee to decide who we want to bring to this committee and what we want them to bring to be to this committee for. This is the council corporate plan. So I am formally moving, and Chair, you said you would second.
Second that. So does everybody know what we're voting on? Fine.
Okay. What we are voting on is inviting every cabinet member to the 6-monthly review of the corporate plan so that they can give us the detail that we wish to establish. Thank you.
For custom and practices that it is up to the report.
Okay.
Member on the report.
So hang about. Do you want to share that with the committee?
So, as a committee, you are welcome to make that recommendation to invite cabinet members to come, but it is custom and practice at this council for the lead report cabinet member to make the decision on who is best placed to speak to that report. So you can continue to make those requests. If there were to be a specific topic you wanted to cover at a particular meeting, again, you can make that request in advance, and the leader will consider whether those are questions that the cabinet member would be best placed to answer. But it is up to the cabinet member to decide who to bring to represent a report.
Okay, thanks, Tanya.
I just so we can make the invite. Who is it that can decide? The person whose report is in that name, or can the individual cabinet member decide whether they come or not? Because I think there's been instances before where we've requested and that cabinet member wanted to come but wasn't permitted.
So I think that's a matter for the cabinet to discuss between themselves and to decide. I wouldn't be commenting on who's making that decision, but the report is in the leader's name, so it would be up to them ultimately to decide.
Okay, oh, sorry, I'm Radley, yeah. Then we'll take a vote, okay?
Thank you. I think Councillor Hilton did actually raise an important point, and if I didn't think it was important, I wouldn't say this. Maybe we should wait until a little bit further into the meeting to make that judgment as to whether we actually do feel that there needs to be the additional depth before that recommendation is put forward.
Sorry, you're saying wait till the end of the meeting?
I'd say wait until further on, because as Councillor Hilton has said, can we make a fair assessment of that need? And if custom and practice is that this is the way it's always been done, it's right and proper if we don't think it's adequate that we make a recommendation, but can we actually make that recommendation at this point in the meeting?
Mr. Pulham, it's your call.
No, I'm sticking. I think we should make that decision now.
Okay, I'm happy to second that. So we're going to take a vote on asking the leader to bring the cabinet to the next 6-month review when we look at the corporate plan update. That seems pretty sensible and pretty straightforward. So all those in favour of the request going to the leader, I think that's, okay, 1, 2, 3. Those against? 3, yeah, that's carried. That's carried. Well, that's still carried. Okay. Pardon? Oh, sorry, you're an abstention. Okay, so that's carried with 1 abstention. Okay, so Jeremy, we're scrutiny committee. That's what we're doing, and that's why we want the cabinet here. So, where did we get to, Councillor Pullen? Are you finished now?
I have got other questions, but I'm happy to have a break and let someone else, and then I'll come back a little.
Okay, so we've got going around this. Sorry, Karen, and then Steph Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. Point 18 says that public art consultants have been commissioned to consult on, devise and develop a new public art strategy and commissioning framework, which will come to Cabinet in January 2026. Can I please ask how much we've spent on these public art consultants?
The public art, a report went to our Cabinet to ask for some employed consultants to come up with a public art strategy. They have met me and asked, I think also Caroline, asking about our views on the public art strategy, and they're due to report back. it cost £20,000 for their employment. I think it was 20,000
At the most, because that's
at the most, yeah. And they were funded from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, so it wasn't directly from the taxpayers of Gloucestershire. It was from a grant aid that came in from the UK Shared Prosperity Fund.
Didn't catch what the sum was.
It was up to 20,000 was allocated to, but whether that's been spent, wouldn't know at this point in time without double checking it.
Thank you. Moving up this way, so Steph Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just go through in order. So going to, sorry, lost it now. So going to the forum, I'm going to have to, sorry, it's gone. Sorry. Nearly there. So it states on the forum that it's on time and completion expected. So that contradicts exactly what we've been told by Declan several times, that there's been delays, that they've had to switch the income generation back into the, well, they've had to move it around back into the borrowing element, etc. So how does that show that it's on time?
Well, we know that the forum has been delayed, but it's on time with our latest estimates. We should be opening the car park very soon. The public realm is nearly complete. Fast hosts have moved in and settled in. Our patch are now moving in. And the hotel, I had a tour with some partners, stakeholders of the hotel. That's been handed over from Kia and is now being fitted out and should be ready for opening in February. So on the latest estimates, we are on time.
That's not
I'm
right.
getting more frustrated.
Yeah, that's, sorry to cut across you, that's not quite right, because I put a load of questions into Cabinet on the completion dates, and Declan said, your lead member on finance said,
I'm
it's
telling
been
you, I'm a
postponed again.
cabinet member. The forum
That's why
is
we want your cabinet members here.
No, because if you want to ask questions about the forum, you ask me questions about the forum, because I know a lot more about it. It is on plan, and the car park is virtually complete. The hotel, the fit outs, they said the first and second floor are slightly behind, but we're ahead on the third and fourth one because they had to send some materials back. But it's on time to be opened in February, and we've announced that time and time again. The hotel is ready. The car park is ready to be opened very soon. We're just waiting for them to finish off the public realm. So the forum is virtually done now. And the next steps are to secure further tenants in the office accommodation.
Okay, I'll go through, sorry to cut you across, Councillor Chambers. I'll go back through the cabinet questions I put in and the answers that we had from your deputy when I get back home. But Ruth, so you've been really patient, thank you.
Sorry, Chair. I just want to try and kind of make a comment generally about the report, just because I think it will help members. So the way this report is laid out is consistent with previous corporate plan reports from previous corporate plans. The on-time completion expected represents the action being completed within the term of the administration, so within the term of the corporate plan. So the expectation is that everything within the corporate plan will be completed by the end of the corporate plan period, which is obviously 2 and a bit years away now. So my expectation is that, yes, we're very early days, so things will be going relatively well. We've got plenty of time to fix them at the moment, should anything go awry. As this report comes back to committee and come back to Cabinet, we may find that things aren't as green as they are today. So I think in terms of the forum, there may be situations with the forum that we're trying to get back on track, but the expectation at the moment is that that action, number one, will be completed within this administration. So hopefully, and that applies to all the other actions as well. So hopefully that just clarifies for members in terms of the green and the orange and what the timescales look like.
It's really helpful, thank you. And Steph, do you want to come back? You finished with your questions?
Yeah, well, the point I'd respond with is this report isn't supposed to be exactly how it was because the peer challenge said it needed to change and it needed to be smart recommendations, performance indicators. I just looked it up, it was there. And I think Councillor Hilton's not really getting where we're supposed to be at with this. He thinks it's an operation in spin. This is for us to have the facts, to dig down on the detail. And that just isn't the case. We've been told the budgets had to be re-amended because of the changes in the forum. You could change an expectation yesterday and say, yeah, well, it's meeting my expectation. You should put it in there. If the expectations changed, that should be noted in this document. I remember when we had Matson and Posmead and we believed that Posmead was going, but we knew there were delays to Matson. We split them out and now they're being put back together. And it was specifically mentioned in there that this is different. Matson is now being delayed because of this. This document, I mean, I'll go back through my questions now. So going back to the forum, another element, details, and it specifically mentions how many jobs have been created, etc. For the whole lifespan of this. That's not accurate. Like you said, we're talking about what you have been doing on your corporate plan. So forget about the lifespan. The forum started in 2021. That's the lifespan. So you're misrepresenting the information that is in this document. That's not what we're here for. We're here for the facts. We don't want to see a load of green things. We're supposed to be acting and being proactive to notify, to see if there's an issue. Is something going to arise? Do we need to look at it? Can that be changed? We're supposed to be working collectively to make sure these can be done. And if we wait 4 years to see it go red, what's the point in looking at this every 6 months? So I really think how this is done should be readdressed. I'll go back through some specifics. So number 30, which is stronger mechanisms and regulatory powers such as Article 4 direction. And it says it's on time. What has been done so far in relation to that?
The Article 4 report will come to Cabinet in December. The officers have been working on the data collection to discover where all the HMOs are in Gloucester. Surprisingly, the former administration's database was so weak they didn't know, which is why we've had to wait longer than we would like to introduce this report. I understand at the moment there are 1,600 HMOs identified across the city. Only 300 of them are licensed. We will bring a report in December with an action plan and introduce new policies to deal with the fact that we have a lot of unlicensed HMOs and also be looking at Article 4 direction. The report is being progressed at the moment. I've had 2 briefings from the senior officer dealing with it at the moment. So I'm very confident of a really good report coming in December. So it's green.
Sorry, you didn't mention anything to do with improving standards in the private rented sector there. And my recollection was that the survey that we had done raised significant issues in the private rented sector with some standards and how people are living. Surely that's more important. What work have you done on that?
The purpose of the report is that we will deal with the problems in the private rented sector when it comes to dealing with HMOs. That report is coming to December Cabinet. I've told you it's coming to the December Cabinet. Let's see what we have in the report on the December Cabinet when it's published. I can't say any more than that at the moment, but it's being progressed and the officer is doing an exceptionally good job. I've had a couple of briefings from him about it.
I'm not complaining about any officer. What I'm saying is it just in relation to HMOs then, or does it cover the poor state of all the private rented sector, not just HMOs?
The report coming in December is dealing with the HMOs, but there's a lot of poor quality HMOs in Gloucester, as we know. We also know that we had a report on a housing stock survey which suggested that housing stock in Gloucester had improved, though I raise concerns because we don't know for sure about the 4 wards that have got inner city housing, because all the new housing could lift the whole standard up but not deal with the inner city area. And it's funny that the 4 areas that I'm talking about are also the ones that got a higher preponderance of HMOs. That report will come in December.
Thank you. The next one was number 32 about movable CCTV cameras. It says potential risk. What's been done on that so far and what's the risk?
So the risk is the finance. So we've been trialling a number of different cameras. So the previous discussions were around acquiring 4 cameras. We're not going to be able to acquire 4. So what we need to make sure is that if we get 1 or 2, that they are absolutely as good as we can get them. So we've been working with different companies to pilot different options and trying to negotiate as hard as we can to get the best deal for the council. And I know that Terry has been asking for updates on that because that's why I know so much about the subject. And no doubt you'll get an update on that too soon, Terry.
I'll just ask 2 more for now, but I have got more. In relation to number 37, in regards to the civil emergency plan, I just wondered if we could have an updated copy sent to all councillors, because it would be useful to have all that.
So the emergency response plan isn't usually shared with all councillors. So usually there's a very short emergency contacts card that is shared because it is sensitive, the emergency plan. I keep coming across a big envelope in my bottom drawer that says confidential and not for do not share, and realising it's not anything exciting. It is actually the emergency plan, and there are a limited number of officers that do have a copy of that. So obviously the emergency response team. So it's the contact details. We're in the process of updating to make sure that all members know who to contact in case of an emergency.
How is any scrutiny of that document done if nobody's allowed to see it then?
So the emergency response plan is a technical document. I wouldn't necessarily think it's very different to many other documents other than how we go about dealing with an emergency. So it's probably, I'm sure it's something that could be scrutinised in closed session maybe. But yeah, it's not something I don't think that's ever done. It's quite a standard way of working in emergency planning terms. So, but yeah, if that's something members were interested in, I'm sure we could do a session on it. I know that there is usually a members development session on emergency planning and how it works. So I don't know if we've done one of those recently, which might outline the process in a little bit more detail. But yeah, it is. It's usually classed as sensitive, that emergency plan.
Okay, I'll leave it there for now.
Okay, Radley. Sorry, I'm Radley. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'd be interested to talk a little bit about 53, which is around the procurement strategy, which is an orange, and the notes say that that's because of staff changes. I know from my day job that changes in procurement strategies can be transformational in terms of the access to services and how that interacts with communities and how that can really change things for those that are the end recipients. I was just wondering what confidence we could have that that would not always stay orange and it would actually move to green.
I think we'd like to be confident that we could move it to green. We've had 3 procurement officers in the last 2 years, so I think it's challenging when somebody starts a piece of work and then obviously moves on for various different reasons, and then somebody else has to pick up that piece of work. There's also been new legislation around procurement, so you know we're keen to, you know, for all of our benefit, all officers are involved in procurement in some stage or another. So we're keen to make sure that the procurement strategy is completed. But obviously, until we do have a new procurement officer. And obviously we're hoping that he's able to complete this piece of work. But, you know, things happen. And I think with LGR looming, I think, you know, people are, you know, less stable in roles. So particularly in short-term roles. So, fingers crossed we can get that completed as soon as possible.
Lovely, thank you. And I'll go for another one. I'm an allotmenter. I have a city allotment, so I should declare that, I think, because point 65 talks about protecting and defending allotments and talking about the supply of allotments. And the solution is you're splitting plots. Now, as somebody that has an allotment, that feels quite an unsatisfactory way of increasing the supply of allotments. Is this something that can be worked in? As you know, I'm an allotmenter, it's important to me. I know a lot of people get a lot of joy, there's a lot of well-being, there's a lot of sustainability, there's a lot of exercise. It can have quite a big impact in terms of that public health approach. It just seems a little bit flippant to say, well, we'll split a few plots and we'll sort it that way.
So I think we probably should have added a bit more information in the update for that item. So some people can't manage a whole allotment, so actually they're happy to share an allotment, and that is the approach we've been taking. So an allotment strategy is going to be coming forward under the wider open spaces strategy work. So that will kind of outline some of the ways that we're trying to increase access to allotments, because I think a lot of areas do have very long waiting lists for allotments. But because of the way we've been trying to work for people that can't manage a full site, actually splitting it out so 2 people can manage a shared site, actually I think it has increased the access to those sites. And obviously Gloucester is limited. We do have some wonderful allotment sites, as you know. But the allotment strategy will lay out a little bit more detail about how that works.
Challenge there is I know that many other people would like a full plot, but they're only offered a half. So I take your points. It is giving you more than you would get, but I don't think it's a full solution on that one. But thank you.
So, Jeremy, if you look at the housing projects that we have, the heading is complete construction in the point which we discussed. Bring forward housing developments, Whitefriars, St Oswald's, Wessex House, Spread Eagle Court, and investigate opportunities at Colwell and St Stephen's. The commentary says in progress, potential risk in progress. Really, that could be much more accurate, couldn't it? A much more accurate description for all of those would be, instead of in progress, 0 progress, because that's the harsh reality. We looked at this paper 12 months ago, and nothing has changed. And a lot of these projects I initiated when I was lead member for planning and housing about 1 million years ago. 0 progress. I really don't see how you can come here and say we've done 80%, we're doing a great job, because you're not. You're not. And on housing issues like these major projects, it's not in progress, it's 0 progress. Karen was making the point, I think it was Karen, about colour coding, and perhaps the colour coding could be a little bit more reflective of what's actually happening instead of just green or Lib Dem yellow, because I don't see that reflects what the situation is. And so, Jeremy, I think you need to refine this. And I just remind you, in case you need reminding, that whenever we do training on scrutiny, we're always told that scrutiny has parity of esteem with cabinet. We're not some psychic scrutiny that you come to and say, I'm not going to do that. Well, you pass what you want. I'm not going to adhere to it. Parity of esteem with cabinet. Those are very important words. And that's how you as leader should be working with us and not belittling us for always saying that we're just raising issues which are in the minutiae. The issues that I've raised, they are certainly not in anyone's minutiae. And in fact, St Oswald's currently has a planning application. From memory, that's the project that, as I say, I pushed forward, and also under the last administration secured £5 million worth of funding for brownfield sites.
Respond, because you've made accusations which are totally untrue. With regard to St Oswald's, we had £2 million, not £5 million for brownfield reclamation. We had a land, bringing the land together. There was three parcels of land being brought together. Rooftop housing are the ones who are leading on this. They've had problems with the financing, but they've got together and they've put in the planning application. They have had public consultations about it all. It's in progress. It's moved on from before. Wessex House, we retendered early in October following a lack of responses to the initial tender to clear the land for the brownfield reclamation. That's in progress now. So, you know, if you don't get tenders in, it's not the fault of the administration. It's the fact that people haven't bid. We think we're succeeding from now on. When we go to, Whitefriars, it says this includes the demolition of the Thai restaurant on Market Parade. That is about to happen. We've been waiting for the completion of the public realm around the forum to get to that point. And there will be a planning application in, because we've got brownfield land, we have to increase the number of units to 32 from the previous planning application. That is in progress. Spread Eagle Court, it's not in our ownership, but what we did, we took action, we secured the building, we boarded it up, and we've charged the owner a sum of £48,000 he's got to pay for the work that we've done to secure Spread Eagle Court. There were people getting in that building, the doors were open. It was in great danger, and we secured it. So we're working on that one. And we're succeeding in dealing with getting additional affordable homes. We got them at Snow Cable, and we're going to get them at the Great Western Road sidings. Bromford are dealing with that. They're going to build about 85 additional affordable homes there. That again is a third-party thing. So it's, you know, they're in progress and they're going to be done. To suggest that nothing's happened, frankly, is disingenuous to the people that have worked hard, and particularly to the officers of this council have been working hard. And really, if you want respect, Chair, you need to do your homework before you start making accusations which are untrue.
Not untrue, and I'll repeat what I said, that we had the same list with the same commentary about 6-12 months ago, where it's no progress, no progress.
Told you of the progress that's been made in the last few months, and you suggesting there isn't. You are wrong, I'm right.
Just moving on, I was trying to find the one on the airport where you expect a decision very soon. Can you update us on that, please?
Look, we're in due diligence period. We should get that solved as soon as the due diligence has been completed. Now, the due diligence is just not us checking out everything to do with the potential buyer, and we're actually taking separate lawyers' advice on the covenants and overage charges that we will place on it, so that we're having that double check. And they were quite clearly doing due diligence on the site that they're buying. They've had people there valuing the property for their own banking needs and everything else to make sure that they're buying what they think they're buying. Unfortunately, because of the delay in me making a decision to put it up for sale, the data room was considerably better than it would have been if I just agreed to go on the market at that point when I took office. So that sale is progressing. It's in the hands of the lawyers and everybody else, and they will finish it when they finish it. You cannot rush something like this, because if you rush something like that, you might make a big error.
No,
I don't want to make any errors, but it's near completion.
So you say the completion date for the airport, or projected date, action deadline, 30th of November. Are you sticking to that?
I'm not going to stick to an exact date because it's in the hands of the lawyers and they will need to move as fast as they can on that. I'm hoping so. But again, once they've completed it, I also want a briefing to make sure that I'm briefed fully on all the conditions they put on that sale. That I'm waiting for that to happen. But it's progressing. It's progressing well. I haven't heard anything that's a problem as yet. But you never know. This is a deal that happens. Has anybody ever bought a house and got the exchange of contracts on time? Probably not. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a multi-million-pound business operating, and we put it up for sale. So let's get on with the job and do it properly.
The key there is that once the deal is concluded, this scrutiny committee wants to do its job and continue our scrutiny of the future of the airport with the new owners. That's all been agreed, and that's in our work programme, and we're keen to crack on with that. So that's why the key date of 30th of November is of interest to many of, well, all of us actually, who sit on this committee. And I agree with you, of course, nobody wants to rush it just to tick the box. It's got to be done right, and there are serious consequences if it's not done properly. Of course, we get that, but the date in there is quite clear. 30th November, a few weeks away. So, anybody else on this side? Angela, then Terry Pullen.
Thank you, Chair. Just an observation, really. Number 20, provide quality public amenities for residents and tourists, including improved free public Wi-Fi, more public toilets, and investigate the installation of water refill stations. But the commentary is all about CCTV. There seems to be a mismatch between the ambition and the outcome so far. Is that an oversight or something missing from there?
So I think the reason the CCTV commentary is in there is because the city centre CCTV is linked to the city centre Wi-Fi, so it just doesn't explain that particularly well. So we can cover that and improve that wording, Angela, to make it a little bit more self-explanatory. So I think the progress needs to be made on the CCTV in order to look at what might be possible for the instant access Wi-Fi and whether the instant access Wi-Fi is going to be needed or not.
But what about the toilets and the water refill stations, which I know Councillor Hilton is keen to install where possible? Is there any progress with those?
Not on the more toilets and the water refill stations. No, that hasn't progressed, but I expect to get that done, some of those done before the end of this council. I think there's technical problems with the one we were looking at next to the North Warehouse, and that they can't find a drainage system to connect it.
So I'll take the other speakers on this side who want to come in next. But I think there's a better way of dealing with the whole review of the corporate plan when we come back to this in April, May. I think we're going to stick to the request to have the cabinet here, maybe take it section by section. We're really jumping around, and that's the only way we can do it, because that's the way the paper's produced. I think there's a smarter way of dealing with this when we look at it in the spring of next year. So on this side, it's Terry Pullen and then Steph Chambers.
Thanks, Chair. Before I come to my question, just to go back on the issue of CCTV cameras, because I dug around this morning and I found the original costings that I did with the officer for 4 cameras, including installation costs and moving them round, and the cost I was given was £14,000. So I'm a bit concerned now that actually we're talking about only being able to afford 2, when the original costings I was given by an officer was 14,000. I'll leave that with you to dig into. I'm sure you'll come back to me on that. Thank you. If I can move on to point 43, which talks about the Commission on Race Relations. And this was something that originally came out on the back of Black Lives Matter. And I'm a bit worried that no progress has been made since mid-2024, which is 18 months ago. But actually, when you look at it, it's worse than that, because the original report was published in January 2022. So I'm really concerned about where this has got to. There is a sentence in there that says officers have met with Gloucestershire Race Collective with potential to lead on recommendations. Now, with the greatest of respect, something that was originally kicked off in January 2022, and now we're looking at potential lead on recommendations, that's just not on. But yet it says on time completion expected. Respectfully, given the track record so far, I think that needs to be recategorised as at risk.
I can give the committee some updates on the work that's happened as a result of that. So you may well remember that there was an organisation formed as a result of the Gloucester Race Commission. Unfortunately, that organisation folded after a few years, and despite obviously us trying to offer support where we could. There was also discussion county-wide about the majority of the recommendations that came out of the Race Commission were Gloucestershire related. They weren't specific to Gloucester, and focusing on a Gloucester approach would have, been in vain, in fact. So there were some discussions with the County Council about, and with other leaders in Gloucestershire about whether we needed to do something more on a county-wide basis. So Gloucester City Council has focused more internally because of the discussions going on about the external work being more Gloucestershire focused. So we've done some work internally. We work collaboratively with the Black Workers Network of the County Council. We've been doing some internal equalities work around our recruitment practices, etc. So I think the discussion with the new group that are looking to set something up is hopefully going to fill the place of the organisation that sadly closed. I think it was probably about 18 months ago now. So I think we are quite hopeful that more can be achieved. I think there's been quite a lot of there's been there has been a bit of a halt. It's not necessarily our work to do. Our role is in supporting the work. So I think now that there's an organisation that are looking to take that forward, we will do what we can to support it. I think the action doesn't say that we're going to achieve or complete anything specific. It says that we're going to work with partners to do what's needed to be done and to cover off some of those calls for action. So it doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the council that do that. Our role, I think, is in supporting and convening a little bit like it was with the Race Commission itself. But that's just a bit of a broader update.
Yeah, but it is in the City Council corporate plan, which says that you've suggested that completion will be expected. I still question that. I still think that is at risk. And could I just say that, as I said, it was a Gloucester piece of work led by Gloucester City Council, and not exclusively, but pretty much predominantly ethnically marginalised communities in Gloucestershire are based in and around Gloucester.
That is very true, but the organisations that were cited in the Race Commission report were organisations such as the NHS, which are Gloucestershire-wide. So changes that were needed on a broader scale weren't just organisations based in Gloucester. So we needed, in order to make progress, we needed to expand it out. So I just wanted to come back as well on the comment on the cameras. Because the budget amendment that was agreed was for 65,000, but that included a full-time officer as well, which has been delivered. So the remaining funding from the officer will be spent on CCTV cameras, and we will get as much as we can for that budget that is left over. Councillor Pullen.
Councillor, we're going to have to move on.
For those officers with 50,000.
Okay, so working our way around for the fifth time, is it now, everybody? Steph Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. Going on to number 52, regarding the backlog of unaudited accounts. it states that the target date for publishing the 24-25 was 31st of October 25 and it's on time completion expected. Can you confirm that happened on the 31st? No.
So I'm happy to take this. So the 31st of October was a date set by us to meet the backstop date. So auditors have confirmed that we've still got a little bit more time to still meet the backstop date, and we're not quite there. So it didn't happen on the 31st, but we will still meet the backstop date, and that is the intention.
Okay, if you knew that wasn't happening, shouldn't the report been amended?
It was published before the 31st, I think. And it's been through a whole cycle. So we're happy to slightly amend it for Cabinet if that's helpful. But yeah, it needed to be published before, I think, before that date.
Okay, and probably needs to not say on time then, doesn't it? The next one I've got is number 49, sorry, a bit backwards. Number 49, it says commercial, increased income from the council's commercial assets, on time completion expected. Yet we were told, what, a month ago, not even a month ago, I don't think, but that the commercial income was down from the forum, but also from other projects, and that I think the response was it's a bit more difficult to increase commercial income than we expected. So shouldn't that be adjusted, or you just expected to somehow recoup it all by the 28th, even though you're not meeting the target yet, by 2028, that is?
We have plans to improve the commercial income. It's still a key pledge of the administration to try and deliver on that. Things are more difficult than we first thought, but there are plans to do that, and I've transferred commercial income to my portfolio, so I'll be taking more detailed oversight of our commercial income, because we need to raise it in order to balance the books. But we're also having difficulty clearly with the retail trade that we have throughout the country. Amazon seem to have taken over much of the supply now, but we have been successful only recently in securing a deal for loungers to move into the old Chambers pub, which will not only help our income, will improve the Proud unit has just been let, that will also increase our income. And of course, we've just let quite a considerable space to patch at the forum, which will also help increase our income. We've got to secure further tenants, and we've got to do it in a way where we've got long-term leases settled. Long-term leases are better than short-term licenses and things like that, so that we can secure long-term for the council. We will do better, I'm hopeful, by the end of 2028. It might well be that could be an orange risk. We might need to change that before we get to Cabinet. It's a difficult one, but it's a key objective. It's a key objective in our manifesto to try and drive up commercial income for this authority. Again, there's interest in units at St Oswald's Park, but we might need to move one unit aside to give a double unit to somebody else. We're looking at all that sort of stuff at the moment. But securing a tenant is always a difficult job. And of course, we've agreed to put up the parking charges by the rate of inflation, which will increase the commercial income of this council. Remembering that our car parks are not charity, they need to cover their costs and they need to raise their income. And again, once the car park at the forum opened, that will be beneficial to the council as well. And again, once the hotel takes over, opens, but that will take maybe 2 years before it gets into a surplus. It's not going to hit straight away.
Thank you. My point is with that one that shouldn't the KPI and the wording just reflect that? Because I don't know if you changed the budget but it was definitely in a report about the commercial income won't meet its budgeted target. So it would just be nice to see that one changed. Just have a little bit of a comment in there explaining that, you know, you haven't realised what you thought you would realise in that respect. The other thing is about the procurement that I just wanted to mention. And obviously you've stated about there's somebody changing over with staff. I think the procurement is really important because I have serious worries about the procurement, because I don't think things are being done by the book. Because, for instance, I think there's a level of about 30,000 that should go out to tender. If we look at the LGR consultant that you employed, that ultimately cost 70, you said, I think 60 or 70. And now you've broken it up into 30, 30, 10. When really that should have gone out for proper tender, should have had 3 tenders back, should have looked at it properly, not just circumvent the rules by splitting that contract up. It doesn't seem a fair procurement process. So it is something that I'd like to keep an eye on. And I don't know if there's a paper that comes where you monitor all the contracts that have been done and that they've been done correctly. I don't know if that's something this could look at, or if there's even a payment paper that exists on that. Do you know?
Well, on the LGR, the first contract was to look at the Greater Gloucester proposal and to see whether it had any legs. So that was the first options analysis, was to see whether it had any chance of being a successful option, because no work had been done on it before. And bearing in mind that £30,000 also included value-added tax, so that will reduce it. There's no, includes the VAT, so the 30,000 is technically less in real terms because we can claim it back. The second one was to then progress the Greater Gloucester options paper, which is just about to be published. You'll be able to read it in detail, and you'll be pleased to know that this costs about another £30,000. I was originally told £60,000. We didn't have the money. We've done it for £30,000. Compared to the county council that spent at least £800,000 on their plans for 2 options, I think we've done really well. And we've also secured £48,000 so far from the money that came from the government, because we split it 150,000 between the 3 options. We got so we've got that, and there's about £20,000 less in that fund being held by the county council. So if that's unspent, that might well be allocated to us. So effectively, we've probably done our LGR bid for about £6,000, £7,000. So I think it's pretty good value for money, considering what others have spent on their plans, and the one we've got to go forward, in fact, is considerably better option than the other 2.
Sorry, I don't know if I didn't explain myself properly. I'm not talking about how much it costs exactly. I'm talking about the procurement process and the rules are being circumvented. Whether it...
Sorry, you used the word circumvented. We put in we haven't circumvented anything. There's a £30,000 limit. The first contract was done for £30,000 at the beginning of the process. The second contract was not let until we'd got the report that went to council in September. So it's the second contract that was let. It was not a continue. It was not one big one. It was two. And the reason why the second one was let to do the work was based on the fact the first one needed to report back and give us the evidence to say, yes, it's worthwhile going ahead.
So did you consider any other consultant for the second one?
No, we went with the existing consultants because they already had done a load of work on the thing, and putting it out to tender would have taken time, the procurement would have taken time, and the government set a deadline to the 28th of November. So we've got to get the job done. And we're doing it, and we're doing it a damn sight cheaper than the county council is for their grand scheme.
I think that's blurring the lines. My point is there's been incidences before that have been proven that the procurement process hasn't been followed. The legislation's changed. Well, without a procurement officer, I think this committee should be looking at the procurement and checking that everything's done properly, because that's very important. It's taxpayers' money and we need to be getting best value. And at the moment, particularly with that contract, I think that was just done quickly. Yes, I get it, it needed to be quick, but you cannot circumvent the rules.
We're not circumventing the rules. Let's get it right. They were in the rules, and the contracts were let by the manager and director, and the advice was that they were in the rules. And the work is being done at considerably less than the cost of what Gloucestershire County Council's done.
So I've got one eye on the clock right above you. We're going to have to, in a minute, take a vote on whether to carry on or not. So I don't see any other hands going up. Steph, are you finished with that issue? We can still request an item on procurement to come to ONS, or we can request an internal audit. Look at the issue.
Yeah, I do have really honestly concerns about that, because I asked for the terms of reference that were sent to the consultant, and they come back to me dated 2 months after they were supposed to, when I went into the properties of that document, they were dated 2 months after they were supposed to have been received by him. So I do have concerns about that.
Well, if you've got technical concerns, take them up with the officers about that. I'm sure you've done that already, and you'll get the technical answers. I think that's the appropriate place rather than at scrutiny. But the fact is, Chair, the deal that was done and the cost to us to prepare a bid for local government reorganisation is extremely cost effective, and we did it. We saved taxpayers' money because other authorities have spent more. I expect Cheltenham, with their split county scheme, has spent a lot more than Gloucester City Council have done, and they have used the county council process to deliver on it as well.
Yeah, okay.
So we've done really well. And I think you'll find when you read our proposal, it's considerably better than the other two.
So we can continue this after the meeting, off the line. So we're going to have to take a vote in a minute whether to continue. So I'm trying to squeeze the meeting end before we get to that 8:30 deadline. So is it something really quick? I'm not trying to be disrespectful, Ruth.
No, just on that point, I just wanted to clarify for the committee that we do have a procurement officer in post again now. So we do have somebody in post. Okay. And so the management of contracts sits with the 151 officer and with internal audit and the audit committee, should that be needed.
That's helpful. We can follow that through. So are we happy to bring this to a conclusion now? We happy? Maybe not happy is the right word, but we okay to agree to bring this to a conclusion. I think when you come back, Jeremy, with your cabinet, I think we can find a different way of presenting this report. I think it's been quite bitty, jumping around from page 1 to 200, back to 7 and 8 and all the rest of it. That's because there's no criticism of the officers of you, Ruth. It's the way the report is set out. So if we have one presentation, 10 minutes from one cabinet member, and lead on. That should make for a much better and smoother and, dare I say it, because I'm not entirely guiltless, better-natured meeting. We okay to end on that point? Yep. Everybody happy with the work plan? Yep. Okay, so Jeremy, you've done it.
Just when the corporate, council corporate strategy, I keep forgetting what it's called now. When it was presented to cabinet and to council, I think the one, and I think Scrutiny had a look at it beforehand. One of the reasons why we didn't do it by portfolio is because the corporate strategy is not written in portfolios, and the big problem is that some of the questions might get directed at the one cabinet member that's not got the full knowledge about it, because they're themed through that. So it's a bit difficult to say that's one person's portfolio, that's another person's portfolio. So the important thing is to making sure that the committee gets the answers. Even if they don't like some of the answers, they get the answers to their questions.
It's important to be getting them from the right people. I think we've agreed on that. Okay, so at this point, can I just thank you and Ruth and Rebecca up there, got away scot-free, for your patience and your courtesy. Declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.